In today's video, we will be taking a look at another 2024 presidential election prediction, but this time with the worst Republican and worst Democrat. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, who is the worst Republican and worst Democrat? Now for the worst Democrat, we really don't have many choices. I can't think of a Democrat that's all that bad, but I think the best candidate I have for this is probably Hillary Clinton. She was the 2016 Democratic nominee, but she did extremely poorly against someone who was at the time perceived to be an extremely unpopular candidate, Donald Trump. Now, on the Republican side, we have a lot of candidates. We could have more extreme Republicans like MTG, who will probably not appeal to the moderate voters. But in my opinion, the worst Republican that Republicans could run is American superhero George Santos, who has been indicted on many federal crimes and, if convicted, could face the rest of his life behind bars. I've chosen the worst Democrat and Republican possible. Let's get right into today's video. Now, this is the map on our screen right now. These are the safe and very solid likely states for both sides. You can see that Hillary Clinton does have the early advantage. So we're going to start off with George Santos's likely states. And to be honest, he doesn't have any besides the states we have already filled in. I believe he's a very horrible candidate. He's been indicted, and really even a lot of Republicans I don't think would end up supporting him, and therefore he's going to do very poorly in this prediction. Now going to Hillary Clinton's likely states, we still have a couple. First off, in the state of Maine, I do believe that Democrats will win the Maine at-large vote. Hillary Clinton, though not very popular and only won the state by a lead margin against Donald Trump, will certainly win it by a likely margin against George Santos, an absolutely horrible Republican. Now going to Minnesota, again a likely win for Hillary Clinton. George Santos is just such a bad Republican that he will have no appeal whatsoever. And similarly, in the state of New Hampshire, I just don't think that George Santos could have any appeal with educated voters who may really discredit his argument that the indictments were politically motivated. Instead, I just don't think that he's going to get any support from people who are more educated, who have a good understanding of what he may have done, and therefore will not vote for him. Now for DeSantis' lean states. First off, Iowa and Ohio. Both of these states will be lean states for George Santos. Now for pretty much any other Republican, those states will be likely red states. But because George Santos is so disliked, he's just not going to be able to win them by large margins. I think he's going to win them by like 3% maximum, considering how many Republicans really hate him. Now, just to prove my point that George Santos is extremely unpopular, on your screen right now is a poll that I made on the EPA channel, and despite around half of my viewers actually being Republicans, 75% of respondents believe that George Santos should resign, showing his extreme unpopularity not only with Democrats, independents, but also with Republicans. Continuing on with today's video. Now for the lean states for Hillary Clinton. We're going to see many of the traditionally competitive, even lean Republican states going to a lean Democratic column. For example, Hillary Clinton, I do believe, will win the entire Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania against George Santos. Santos is really a garbage candidate. He has admitted to a lot of wrongdoing about financial misconduct in his campaign trail, and therefore that's going to come back and haunt him. Hillary Clinton's going to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. She's obviously also going to win Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, putting her at 270. In addition, she's also going to win the states of Nevada and Arizona. This is because of the fact that Hillary Clinton, although not the most popular candidate, although she's not going to perform very well in the Sun Belt against any other Republican, Santos is just hilarious. His actions pretty much are undisputably bad, and he has been indicted. He could face life in prison. It just doesn't look very good for the New York congressman. Now for some of these states that George Santos may win by a tilt margin. Because of the polarization of our national environment, I do believe that Santos will still win Maine's 2nd Congressional District by a tilt margin just because he is a Republican. Similarly speaking, in the state of Florida, just because he is a Republican, I do believe that he's still going to win the state of Florida. I just don't think Florida will vote for someone like Hillary Clinton. She focused all her attention on the state in 2016 against Donald Trump at the time a perceived unpopular candidate and was still unable to win the state. Now for the final 3 states. First off, Georgia. Georgia's definitely going to go for Hillary Clinton. This is just because how bad George Santos really is as a candidate, and the accusations that came out against him are just really horrible. Therefore, I don't believe that George Santos could win the state of Georgia. North Carolina, similar story, tilt state for Hillary Clinton. Maybe even a lead margin, just because George Santos has no appeal. He has no appeal with white voters, college educated or non-college educated. He has no appeal in the rural areas, no appeal in the urban areas, and no appeal in the suburban areas. Finally, in the state of Texas. Now, you can say that I'm biased, but I'm going to give Democrats the state of Texas too. George Santos, an awful candidate, someone who can appeal to practically nobody, is not going to win in pretty much any of the perceived competitive states. And although Hillary Clinton definitely not a suburban appealing candidate, George Santos is just too awful for him to win any of the competitive states. And although this prediction may seem extreme, there have been creators who have talked about George Santos and believe that he'll lose by an even wider margin. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.